Hello.
Hello.
It's great to have a little chat with you.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing? You alright?
I'm very well, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Well, I obviously know who you are, but the people watching this video may not. So you want to say a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm John Good. I'm the associate pastor of SBC. My wife and I have been here for about 5 years, and we've had two little boys whilst we've been here in Luton, Dylan and Jake, and they are full of mischief, but tons of fun as well. So yeah, I mean, my responsibility in the church is about helping guide missional communities, which is about answering the question, what does faith look like beyond the borders, the boundaries of the church? That's what I help people to answer.
Mm-hmm. The borders and boundaries of the church, and that will incorporate, I guess, something that you at Stopsley Baptist Church called beacons. That's an important part of your vision. Do you want to say a little bit about those? Yeah,
I mean, beacons is all about light. It's a name that we gave to a bunch of communities that were started up about 5 or 6 years ago. I think really where it starts is by saying that God is illuminating his world. And so culture and media and business and art and family, all those kind of things, God is illuminating those things. And C.S. Lewis said that thing that about, he said, not only can I see the sun, but by its light so I can see everything else. And that's what we, I think, are trying to do, is trying to see where God is illuminating and working in the world so that we can join with him. You know, like in the Bible, it talks about Jesus says that he is the light of the world, but it also says that we are the light of the world. And so Beacons is about trying to be a bunch of people who say to each other, have you seen that thing that God has done over there, or God is doing in a particular part of the workplace, or a particular, you know, the aspect of sports or somewhere, and then say to each other, what would it look like if we followed him there and joined with him in his work? That's what Beacons is about.
Okay, so you're looking at what God is already doing in society and joining in with that. So how does that reflect on... So reflecting on that, how does that affect the way you view mission in a world which isn't really interested in Christianity, doesn't really see its relevance? How does that affect your mission as a church?
Yeah, well, I think for a long time, I think the church has said, we're doing this great thing in here, come and join us and be a part of it, you know, get to know our God. And I think when we've talked about things like evangelism in the past, what that's been all about is about saying, we've got the light of God living in us and we're going to take it out to the deep, dark world out there. But joining with God in mission, I think, is about saying, no, how can we become more awake, more alert, more kind of on the ball to notice God, you know, whatever he's doing. See him in conversations and in, you know, and in little snippets of everyday life. So it's like, you know, when in the Bible when Jacob goes to sleep and he has that dream of the staircase in heaven, and he wakes up again and he says something along the lines of, God was in this place and I was not aware of it. He has this like moment where he kind of just like wakes up to the fact that God has been in a place which is Canaanite and has illuminated the place, and he renames I think it was a Canaanite town beforehand, and he renames the place Bethel, which means the house of God. He kind of just sees God's action at work somewhere way beyond what he's used to, his tribe and the place where God should be, and he puts a stake in the ground and says, here is where God is lighting up the place.
So if you think practically how that works out within your church context, I mean, are beacons just mini churches, or are they something else?
Yeah, we like to think that they're something else. I mean, taking it right down to earth, they're bunches of about 20 to 40 people who kind of get together around, like I say, a particular area of mission where they've noticed God at work. I think we try and use the language of family rather than a group. We want to be like an extended family. And the difference is, I think we've got really used to groups happening in the life of the church and getting used to the idea of that our Bible study happens in a group, our pastoral care sometimes happens as a group, the way that we reach out happens in a group. And a family, I think, you wouldn't have that kind of same language if you're talking about a family. It happens on the fly, it happens on the cuff, like you know. So we try and, you know, we try and be people who don't. We obviously have meetings either every week or every month or whatever. There's the kind of more organised, formal part of it. But part of being a family is learning that relationship and discipleship and all that kind of stuff happens outside of those things too.
Okay, so what do the Beacons do?
So they would meet up around that on either a weekly or a kind of monthly basis. They have leaders who are kind of spiritual parents to the group. Beacons are responsible for having their own vision. They've got to come up with it themselves. They've got to work out why it's a vision, how is it aspirational, what are you trying to actually accomplish, how are you joining in with God's work, all that kind of stuff. And that's got to sit under the authority and the accountability of our eldership here. So the eldership set the big kind of picture for the church, and then underneath that, the leaders of the Beacons are responsible for leading and pushing into a particular vision.
Okay, so what Beacons have you got?
So there's a few around at the moment. They split into either neighbourhoods or networks of things at the moment. So there's one on the network stuff. There's one gathered around sports. They've met up before. They got really involved in Park Run. They helped to facilitate each Saturday morning. They helped to dish out teas and coffees, like just next to the church here. There's a playing field. And there's hundreds of people in the winter time playing football, and they helped to give out teas and coffees and that kind of stuff. They've supported Lily Cricket Club, and they've supported Stopsley Striders as well. They've got quite involved in. So that's been great. Another network one would have been, we had one previously around the idea of helping people who are slightly more vulnerable, perhaps, reach their potential, that kind of thing. That was one way in which people were united. We had one previously that was around doing social action and making a difference, sort of just very, very practically. Neighbourhood-wise, we've got one that was to reach out to the village, Stopsley Village, just up the road. They got too big, and so there's still one happening to reach out to the village, and then there's also one to look at the Puttridge area. They're going well. The Puttridge one's really new though, and then over the summer we had a kind of little experiment. There's a bunch of people who live around Wigmore, and Asda have a free community room there, so we were like up in the kind of bowels of Asda, trying to meet up and work something out there. Yeah, and there's a few more.
So how would you say this fundamentally differs from, say, a home group, for example?
Yeah.
Or a Bible, which tend to be a group of friends come together to study the Bible and care for one another. How would Beacons be different to that?
Well, I think they're bigger, which helps you kind of take on a mission, I think. So
they're primarily... Would you say primarily mission focused, or that's just part of who they are?
I think they gather around a mission, an outward looking vision.
Yeah,
that's important. They're bigger, which enables them to dare, really, in a way that when you've got a smaller group, it's difficult to do that. I think that one of the things is that in a Bible study, the leaders, or a home group, the leaders are responsible for facilitating probably some kind of Bible study, some kind of prayer, and some kind of talk about life. And it can be perhaps a bit inward looking, and focusing on building us up. But we're really there's like that story about the two-part healing. So Jesus kind of part heals a man, and the man can partially see. But then Jesus says, go and wash your eyes in the pool called Siloam, or Sent. And it's kind of like the healing, the man can only see a life of faith once he's gone and washed in this pool called Sent. And we think that, Bible study and prayer and all those things are to be worked out, but on the mission, as you go, kind of thing. Not groups to support the life of the church, but groups to widen the fringe and the life and the community and the ecosystem of the church.
Okay, so what would you say is key to making a beacon work?
Well, I think you need a vision. You need to. There needs to be a group of people. We would say like probably 2 couples, like 4 people maybe, gathered around a specific idea either a network or a neighbourhood.
So you need key people who have a passion and are leading by example and want other people to join them in that.
Yeah, leading by example. Who I don't know if I said this, but leaders perhaps should see themselves as spiritual parents, people who are responsible for nurturing other people in the faith. One of the things that we've been reflecting on the last few years is that leaders have seen themselves as organisers, and so rotas have happened, events have happened, but the nurturing of missional disciples is something that kind of gets left down.
Okay, so if we bring it down to Ramridge Baptist, we're about a mile away.
Okay.
A different setup. We're much smaller than you, significantly smaller.
Yeah.
So, what would be your advice so that we could be effective as a missional church?
I think a really good question to ask yourself is, where is God at work? Where did you last see God at work? Because then I think that brings up all your suppositions about where God is active at all. And it tends to be things like, I was in a prayer meeting and this thing happened and someone spoke a word to me, or I've listened to Mr. Martin Shorey give one of them life-changing messages that he does, or I was at some kind of conference and God, was just really doing that thing, whatever. Beyond that, then, I think also we are able to pick up God in like sunsets and beauty and art and those kind of things. But I think there needs to be a kind of another step where we say, no, where is God in the ordinary, everyday things of life? Where is God when I take my kids for a walk in the park? Where is God at work already when I need to make a decision at work? How is he already moving my workplace on? What are the kind of gospel dynamics at work and the kingdom dynamics, or what is happening that says that the God I believe in is at work beyond the borders of church? And it's when you can start talking a kind of language regularly which says, I've seen God here, I've seen God there, that's when you can begin gathering other people around you and go, hey, look, can we focus on this like one particular aspect of life? Because I just think God is moving in this thing, and you can gather people together that way. Mike Frost as well talks about the importance of everybody living a questionable life. So what he thinks is that there are some people who are gifted to be evangelists. The confident, extrovert kind of, gifted kind of person. But he says that everybody, and this is important, is that everybody sees themselves as someone who can live a questionable life. And by that he means we all live relevant lives, and sometimes with Christians we are like everybody else. We fit in, saying hello to your neighbours, taking your kids for a walk in the park, being a nice person. All of those things are just ways in which we fit in. They're not things that make other people question why on earth we live that way. So he says what you need to adopt is some practices that shape and habits that shape your life in such a way as you are forced to live questionably. So he says if you want to be a generous person, practice hospitality. If you say that Christ is your saviour, what have you learned about him this week on your own? If you think of yourself as being sent, record all the ways that has been the case this last week. He says adopt a bunch of practices and rhythms in your life, and that will shape what you believe about where God is. So the being and doing kind of complement each other. Sometimes it's about learning who God is and then working that through into practices. Other times it's starting from the practices themselves and reflecting on those and saying, what did that teach me about God? Yeah, so I get my hair cut from Ali Barber, which is the guys up in Stopsley Village, and they are just brilliant guys. And I had an hour with Sam the other day. Sam, I don't know his last name, but he's the guy who runs and manages Ali Barber, and he's the nicest, friendliest guy. He's a Muslim guy, And we were sat there outside Coffee Express, and I was there to talk to him about Stopsley, because I wanted to know about the needs of Stopsley and where people were at and that kind of thing. And I said to him, Sam, what is the biggest need in Stopsley Village? And he said to me that people need to open their hearts. He says, above it all, he said that he says he prizes conversation. So whereas we kind of tend to lock down conversation a little bit and not open ourselves up, he says he loves it, he treasures just words and interacting. And so he says his favourite conversation topics are religion, politics, football and women, he says. But he says once people are in the chair, he says what he wants to do more than anything else is just get them to open up a little bit about what they're going through. And he says as a result of them sitting in the chair, sometimes they'll phone him up like outside of work hours and they'll say, Sam, can we keep talking about the thing that we were talking about in the chair? Which I just think is amazing, really. He gets a load of people from who are Christians, and he'll say like, what's your faith, what do you believe, what's in your heart, that kind of thing. And they'll go, yeah, I'm a Christian. And he'll say then, what does that mean? And he says that 90% of the time, no one follows up. They'll give him a, I don't know. And what he wants isn't this kind of awkward... He doesn't care about people being awkward about their faith or kind of not, being able to express themselves. What he just wants is people to express that joy and that like spark that kind of gets you going about what is it to follow Jesus? Why is it transformational? He actually wants to know, and he's a Muslim. So it's quite funny because I was preaching on the Good Samaritan and what happens when Jesus is instructing the church beyond the tribe of the church, if you see what I mean. What happens when the categories of in and out get blurred in such a way as a Muslim from down the road tells us, instructs us, helps us understand a little bit more about what it means to become a better Christian, really, by the way that he is living.